fight. And I'm going to ask you to try to implore the other members in your legislature to stand up to this. Do not be bullied. Do not be frightened. Your political career is worth losing if you can save the right to vote in America. In history, I swear to God, you will be heroes.
This morning, Trump campaign lawyer Rudy Giuliani urged Republican legislators in Arizona to step in and choose electors that would back President Trump. Donald Trump's legal team trotted out witnesses who spoke at the event, which was held at a Phoenix hotel. Our NBC affiliate was not allowed inside. Only Trump-friendly stations like OAN and Newsmax attended. But for all the repeated claims of fraud, which there was none, 90 minutes ago, right on schedule, Arizona's Secretary of State certified the results of the election in Arizona with Joe Biden as the winner. And although Katie Hobbs is a Democrat, she's the Secretary of State there, the onslaught of Trump campaign lawsuits and misinformation have been largely held in check by Republicans at the state and local level. As the New York Times puts it, in the end, the system stood firm against the most intense assault from an aggrieved president in the nation's history because of a Republican city clerk in Michigan, a Republican Secretary of State in Georgia, a Republican county supervisor in Arizona, and Republican-appointed judges in Pennsylvania and elsewhere. Joining me now, New York Times Chief White House correspondent Peter Baker and Washington Post White House reporter Ashley Parker. You know, what I didn't say there, Peter, and what your reporting doesn't really point out, is that the pushback isn't coming from Republican leaders at the top, from Republican senators like Mitch McConnell. They've been silent on this, or they've been cheering the president on as he tries to dismantle the confidence in our democracy.
Yeah, there's been a marked difference between the Republicans at the national level, the people who serve in Congress, who in fact are our nation's representatives in the Republican Party, and their party compatriots at the local and state level who actually are overseeing these elections or are hearing these cases in court or are certifying these results. The people who are actually responsible for these elections in many cases are Republicans, and that they themselves have rejected this president's evidence-free claims that there is something wrong with the elections. In fact, they take offense at the idea that they, in fact, ran some sort of a corrupt election that didn't happen. You know, it's striking to see that some of the people who are most, offended by the president's allegations are members of his own party at the state and local level, even as senators and congressmen largely keep quiet or indulge the president on his sort of fantasy assertions.
Let me read, this is The Atlantic's Ron Bernstein describing it. I'll read it to you. As it gets more and more fantastical and far-reaching, implicating the DOJ, this is Trump over the weekend, the FBI, Republican governors, the silence of Republicans in Congress, McConnell in particular, McCarthy in particular, who are allowing this poison to spread, looks more and more like a modern analog to the rampages of Joe McCarthy in the early 1950s. Over the weekend, the president went on Fox Business, and he claimed that the FBI was rigging the election against him. He went after Brian Kemp, who really tied himself to Donald Trump in his campaign for governor there a couple years ago. He was as Trumpy as you get. He is just lashing out at anybody. I still find it remarkable reading your article, reading this comment from Brownstein, Ashley reading your extensive article about how we got here, that any one of these Republicans can stomach what is happening, can keep a straight face, Ashley, considering what is happening.
Well, different people have different motivations. But again, I think the past 4 years have shown us that in the Republican Party writ large, at least at the upper echelons, those lawmakers in Congress are not exactly profiles in courage. So, for instance, you have the enablers in the president's inner circle. Some of these are people who were on the campaign, were advising the campaign, and there's a sense that if they can say, okay, you're losing the White House, but, secretly you really won, then they get to deflect some of the blame over the poor campaign they ran, or the president's questions about how they spent so much money and didn't deliver him an actual lawmakers in Congress. Some of them, they're up for reelection. re-election in 2022. And it again just underscores what a hold this president has on the party. So you have someone like Roy Blunt, who went out on the Sunday shows, wouldn't call Joe Biden the president-elect. He's up for re-election in 2022. And a fear for someone like him is that Donald Trump will get angry and show up in his state and gin up a primary against him. So fear is a motivating factor for some. Self-protection is a motivating factor for some. There's all different reasons.
The longer, though, they continue this farce, the harder it is to get away from it, and only putting themselves further into this corner where they have to pretend like democracy is not real in order to continue to hold their seat within this democracy. Ronna McDaniel had this problem over the weekend when she was down there in Georgia telling people to go out and vote for the two Republicans who are trying to hold on to their seats there. And people in the crowd actually were screaming, hey, no, why should we trust this election? Hold on, we need you to go out and vote. So it's backfiring against, or could potentially be backfiring against them in Georgia. But actually, briefly, I mean, your article was amazing. Both of your articles were amazing. You lay out exactly what the president is doing, and you point out that they know behind the scenes that what Rudy Giuliani is going out and saying, what Jenna Ellis is going out and saying, what Matt Schlapp is going out and saying, what Rick Cannell is going out and saying is just baloney, that they're just picking anybody willing to go out and make a fool of themselves, willing to go out and say they stole it, roll them out for whenever they need a press conference.
That's exactly right. And there was sort of a tipping point right after the election. There was a sense that aides conveyed to the president that this was going to be really tough. This was going to be an uphill battle. They put it at 5 to 10% odds that he could actually win. Realistically, those odds were probably even far lower because votes are votes. But there was sort of a legal strategy. And then as it became clear as they were losing cases, as some of these claims coming in were proving to be baseless, and originally, there's a legitimate reason to investigate a claim of voter fraud on either side. That's a fair thing to do. But as it became clear that there was no there, as someone said to me as we were reporting this, look who is out speaking on behalf of the president. And once it became the Rudy Giuliani show with Jenna Ellis and even Sidney Powell, who was too much for the conspiracy theory president, as someone put in our article, sort of a clown car where you send them off and open up the doors and everyone rolls out with their bad theories that are getting thrown out of court.